Hello everyone. I've been going through a process recently. I don't know if you watched my last video, I might explain a little bit more about it, but I've been trying to find a pistol, semi-automatic pistol, that will actually fit me and work well for me for IDPA Standard Service Pistol Division. And I've made a selection, and it's one of these two pistols in front of you. This is a G48 by Glock and a CZ P10C. So we're going to talk about which one I chose and the reasons why. Okay, so right off the bat, spoiler warning, I chose the CZ P10C. And I know the Glock fans will probably be disappointed in that. But here's some reasons why. Now, I have, as per the last video, less than large hands. And that is a major problem for competitive pistol shooters. Now, when it comes to grip size, the Glock 48 is likely the slimmest and smallest pistol available in the Canadian market. That's another big deal about me, is I'm Canadian, and I live in a less than free country, and there are major restrictions on pistols. For example, almost all the concealed carry, like we're talking about really small size pistols, are just not available to me because of barrel length. In Canada, in order to have a restricted firearm that one can actually get, it has to have a barrel length of more than 4 inches. So if it's 4 inches or less, then it's prohibited in Canada, and only a handful of people in the country who had prohibited pistols prior to the new laws can own them. So, for example, the Glock 43, I can't own that because it's prohibited in Canada. Same thing with the standard CZ P10C. You might notice that this is the suppressor ready model, and the reason why I have that is because the barrel is extended to accept a suppressor, and that puts it above the 4 inches barrel length. So that'll be like, there are Glock 43s available in Canada, but they have an extended barrel kind of like this one, which is kind of lame. But for the most part, most, say, single stack, slim, semi-automatic pistols in Canada, they're very difficult to get your hands on, and when you do, they're expensive, and blah 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 blah. The Model 48, however, is the exception to that. The G48 has all the frame of the G43, but it has an extended slide, a normal size slide, and therefore it is a restricted firearm in Canada. But for the most part, for a semi-automatic 9mm pistol that can take 10 rounds, this is it right here. This is the smallest one that you're going to get. Now, this pistol fits me very, very, very well. Please excuse it. I just brought these back from the range. They're still dirty. I haven't even cleaned them yet. Now, the Glock pistol. Now, let's put it this way. A lot of people who have less than large hands hate Glock pistols. They just hate them. They don't feel right. And there's a reason for that, because of their square nature. Now the grip on here, say on a Glock 17, which is full size grip, full width, won't fit in a less than large hand well. And what I'm talking about are these radius corners. It's very flat, it's very 2x4 like, and on a Glock 17 or something similar with a full size grip, these corners will dig into parts of your hand that it's not meant to. Like for a small gripped person, for a small handed person, the G48, I don't know, it's hard to tell, but these corners fit right in the creases of my fingers, both here and here, this part and this part, and that makes a huge difference in comfort. This is a comfortable pistol for me. Where Every other Glock out there isn't. Not only that, but I can get my thumb on the releases. Like if these were extended release and slide release and magazine release, it would work probably 100% of the time. And the trigger reach is great. I can have it lined up so I can reach these two things and then have my finger on the trigger in a good spot. And man, oh man, this thing fits me well. But, dun dun dun, the trigger's terrible. And I know the Glock guys out there are going to be saying, this is the best Glock trigger ever, and it probably is. It's likely that this is the best of the worst triggers. That's the way I'm going to phrase it. The Glock 5th gen, which is probably, you could probably call this a 5th gen, or 4.5 gen, triggers are actually quite adequate. They are adequate. Trigger pull is about 5 or 5.5 pounds. And the reset's pretty good. It's nice and audible. There it is. But the shape of this trigger and the combined with the over travel makes this a very difficult pistol to shoot accurately. Where, on the other hand, the CZ, which has a pretty damn good trigger, I would say that this is on par with my SP1 in single action mode, where there's, you got your take up, you hit that wall, there's a little bit of squish, there's a little bit of travel there, not much, and then it breaks. It's lighter than the Glock by maybe a pound, and the shape of the trigger and the lightness and the over travel are superior to the Glock, and it makes a big difference. And many of the Glock guys will argue, yes, the trigger isn't as good, but you don't need a good trigger. And that's just, quite frankly, that's horse crap in any way you measure it. Now, I suppose, let's face it, most of us, especially us in Canada, we're never going to use these pistols in a life and death situation. Almost never. It's likely it's never going to happen. Number one, we can't carry these concealed. We can't carry a pistol concealed in Canada. There's the ability to do so if you apply, but nobody passes the application. Nobody. Unless you're very, very, very well connected politically. You're not going to get a permit to carry a pistol. Ever. So it's almost off the board. I guess the only circumstance that's happened in Canada, it's happened a few times, is home invasions. Somebody trying to burn down your house, that sort of thing. You might have the time to get to your gun cabinet, unlock everything, load up some magazines, and then use it in a self-defense situation. But I mean, if you're in that kind of situation, you're probably going to be pulling out a long gun. I mean, why? But anyways, I'm getting off topic. We can't use these in a concealed carry environment. So we probably aren't going to be using them for self-defense, which means that we're probably going to be using them mostly for competition and for fun. So in that circumstance, when you're using them in competition, accuracy matters. I mean, IDPA and IPSC both have scoring systems where if you hit the middle zone, like the A zone in IPSC, or the same thing with IDPA, you score better. You just do. And there's small plates, like 6-inch falling plates and that sort of stuff, where accuracy matters. It's not just a 12-inch or 18-inch big, huge man-sized target. You're actually shooting for a very small zone. It's like this big, right? 6x4 or 6x6 or in about that range. And accuracy matters. And triggers matter when it comes to accuracy. And the Glock trigger is worse than the CZ trigger by quite a bit. I'm going to bring in an example here. Okay, so this is a target I shot today, like a matter of a couple hours ago. On the left here, this is the Glock 48. Now, don't laugh at me. I'm not an accomplished pistol shooter. I was shooting this at 10 meters, just standing in the snow. 10 meters, so we're talking like 33 feet. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shots. And this is me taking my time and trying to shoot the best that I can at 10 meters. And this is the Glock. Now it's low to the left. Now, that's a common complaint for Glock shooters. People that shoot Glocks is they tend to shoot low and to the left. And it seems like the reason for that is grip and finger placement. Now my grip is pretty good on the gun. My finger placement, well, I have trouble getting it on there in the correct spot. And I really have to concentrate on where exactly my finger is on the trigger. Obviously I'm pushing on it. Low and to the left. I'm pushing on the trigger. Maybe I don't have enough trigger, finger on the trigger, but obviously it's a problem for me. I'm shooting low and to the left, and it's not a very good group. Now you compare that to the CZ. There's the CZ at the same distance. And I've got one hole down here that I flubbed, and that's another one that I totally screwed up. But, I mean, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is my first time shooting these two pistols. And look at that group. Now I'm shooting at 6 o'clock. I'll put that out there. And my front sight is right about here somewhere. So that's pretty much right on target. Pretty much. You know, an inch off maybe. But look how tight that is compared to my my Glock 48. And this is the trigger. It's the trigger that's making this difference. From that to that. Now I also have some film where I took the best sets where I'm shooting at the same distance, 10 meters, at 6-inch gongs. And I'm trying to hit the gongs left and right, left and right, left and right, as fast as I can and get as many hits on target. And I'm going to roll that in here in just a second. So yeah, triggers matter. Now the CZ, the trigger distance from here to here is about the same as the Glock. It's very similar. The grip is a little bit bigger by about 3/8 to 7/16 of an inch in circumference. But my hand size will tolerate that. I can probably go up to, maybe 5 5/8 in diameter before it really starts to become uncomfortable. Anything bigger than that, and it's going to be really, really hard for me to grip. But even though that this is wider, I talked about this a little bit earlier with the shape of the grip. The CZ has a much more rounded front edge than the Glock does. Like the transition is much less sharp than the Glock. So even though my knuckles or the bendy parts of my fingers don't line up as well, it's softened quite a bit by the radius of the front strap. This is with the smallest back strap on, by the way. So I give up a little bit on my grip. I can still reach the mag release and the slide release, and even though it's pretty difficult for me to push the button on both of these pistols, It's just a lot easier just to use my offhand to do so. But the proof is in the pudding. You look at those targets and the video that I just showed you, and I can shoot more accurately and faster with the CZ than I can with the G48. And that's that. I mean, I could put a whole bunch of time into learning this trigger. Many people make that argument with Glocks. You just got to learn the trigger. But while I'm spending hours and hours learning the trigger on this, I could be improving the trigger, my trigger placement on this one, and moving on to something else that's important, like mag changes or sight alignment or a host of other things. It's like, why would I want to waste time on something that's inferior trigger-wise when I could start off with the better trigger and get better faster? I don't know. Now, if, for example, I was going to use these in an enhanced service pistol or something like that where I can make trigger mods, that might make a difference. Replacing the trigger shoe, maybe replacing the firing pin spring on this pistol. But I suppose if I was going to do that, then I wouldn't bother with a polymer pistol. I'd be using a full metal pistol to do that because of the extra weight, right? Because now you're getting into enhanced service pistol. The competition that you're going to be up against, or you're going to be using heavier guns, and you're going to be at a disadvantage using a polymer pistol for the most part. So I would probably not be using a polymer pistol anyways. So when would the Glock have an advantage over the CZ? Well, if concealed carry was allowed in Canada, then I would choose the Glock 48 over the CZ P10C. It's just slimmer and smaller and more easy to conceal, and that becomes a priority over trigger, I would say. Because, I mean, the inconvenience of carrying a pistol all the time, you want to make it as convenient as possible. So, that one day when you decide, maybe I'm not going to carry, I don't want to carry this big bulky thing today, well, that's when you're going to need it. And it's more likely that you're going to be carrying the Glock over the CZ40 or the CZ P10. Also, if I had smaller hands, like my hand, if it was smaller, especially in this diameter here from the fingertip to the palm swell here in my thumb, then this would likely be too big for me. And so would most double stack pistols. In that case, it would be better to go with the smaller pistol, more than likely, just because of the circumference here. If I was like a small hand, like a small size glove, then I would probably go for the Glock, believe it or not. At that point, fitment in the hand is probably more important than the trigger pull. And of course, there's a few things you can do. There's connectors, there's spring kits and stuff like that that you can play with to make it a little easier to pull that trigger, keep it on target, maybe shave this trigger down a little bit. You might be able to cheat there a little bit because technically it's original equipment manufacturing. Or, you know what, you could just say, you know what, I'm never, if you got very small hands, I'm never going to have a pistol that's ever going to fit me without major reconstructive surgery. I might as well just shoot enhanced and use a Glock 48 for that and just completely change the trigger out, trigger shoe, the whole deal. That might be a better option for you. So that's all I got for you folks. I hope that was entertaining. And yeah, the CZ P10C, I'm really very impressed with this pistol. I really like it, and that's going to be the go-to pistol for me. So have a good one, folks, and I'll see you out of the range.